Hey, what's up you guys? Chad Christian from CWC Technologies. I wanted to bring you an exciting new video. I've got the brand new Canon EOS R. I wanted to show you what I like about this system so far and what I think might possibly be my favorite setup. Now I'm shooting this right now on the Sony a7 III. I'm also going to be using the Canon M50 up above to give you some top-down shots. So if you guys want to see how that is set up, leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to show you a full in-depth video on how I shoot these. So let's do the world's quickest unboxing. Hey, there it is. So this is the brand new Canon EOS R. I love this camera. I put a lot of thought into what lens I was going to use for it. I decided to go with this. Now this is the Canon full frame EF 16 to 35 millimeter. Now this is the f4 lens. This retails for $9.99. I'll leave a link down below where you can get yours. The reason I went with this lens, first of all, I would have loved to have gotten the 2.8 lens, the brand new version 3, I believe it is. But that glass is $2,000. And honestly, to shoot my YouTube videos and to do some basic videography work and some fun stuff on the side, I just don't see value in that for myself. The thought that I had going into this is, first I thought, okay, maybe I'll go with that RF lens. So this camera has around a 1.7 or 1.75 crop. We'll just say 1.7 right now. But what I was worried about is inside of my studio here, which is only around a 12 by 12 or 12 by 14 space. So as soon as I put a longer lens on that, like for instance right now on the Sony a7 III, I'm running a 24 millimeter. Well, if I put a 24 millimeter on here, that's going to be equivalent to around 40 millimeters, and there just isn't enough room for it. So then I thought, okay, well maybe I'll put the EFS 10 to 18 millimeter lens on it, and then you're looking at a equivalent to around a 17 or 18 millimeter. Well, the issue with that is with an EFS lens on this new Canon EOS R setup, you can't shoot 60p. So all of my B-roll footage, so right now this is A-roll where we're doing this talking head style work, but the problem is the second that I'd want to do B-roll 1080p 60 frames a second, I'd have to switch the lens because this camera doesn't allow you to do that with an EFS lens. So the reason that I chose this lens is because with a 16 millimeter lens on this at 4K, even with the crop, is around 27 or 28 millimeters, which is perfectly fine. That's the whole reason why I went with this lens. Your use case might be different. So some of the pros and cons already that I see from the camera, obviously, is that crop. Now that might be a pro or a con for you. And the reason I say that is because I've also had the Panasonic GH5 that had a crazy crop on it. But I actually saw it as an advantage because then when I put on like say a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, well now I've got a lot more reach. So if you're someone who has to have longer reach, or you do weddings or photography, you can actually get, you know, a 100 millimeter lens on that thing and you're reaching out to 170 or 180 millimeters for a 100 millimeter lens price. Some of the reasons that I went with this camera is just like why I'm shooting up here with the Canon M50 is the ease of use. And yes, I've had a lot of cameras, so they aren't hard for me. I understand them. I've had the Sony a63, 65, a7 III, the Panasonic GH4, GH5, the Canon 6D, Canon 80D, 70D. I've had tons of cameras. One of the main reasons for this is just the ease of use and, of course, the flip screen. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just a gimmick, or it's only for vlogging. That's not true at all. In a studio setup just like this, the thing that makes this the easiest part is, so I had to redesign this setup in my studio because I was shooting video for an unboxing and first impressions of a new gaming monitor from Asus that I've got in, and I had to completely rechange this entire setup that I have. Once I put all the studio lights back, everything was set back up, then I had to shoot the video. Well, of course, because there's no flip screen on the Sony a7 III or any of the Sony Alpha series, I now have to rely on a mobile app. So it's like, oh, that's no big deal. Well, it's one more thing, it's one more setup. And of course, when I tried to launch this on my phone, it didn't launch. Even on the new iPhone XS Max Yes, it does have issues. I had to swipe and close all the applications because it takes a lot of memory. So basically it created an extra 10 minutes. Then once I have it set up, I have to goof around with everything, keep looking at my phone. Well, guess what? If I'm using this setup with this, I'm done. I literally turn this camera on, I flip the screen around, I set my studio up, I hit record, and I'm running. This is why this is the perfect run and gun style setup. Now I also went with this lens, that was the other reason, is for vlogging. If I do want to do any vlogging, I can actually get decent vlog footage even though I'm around 27, 28 millimeters with this lens. So this is a great setup. Now of course, because this is not an RF lens for this camera, which is native to this camera, you have to get this adapter right here. Now this adapter allows you to adapt and put on any EF or EFS lens, and it's only $99. They have another one that has a ring on it that's $199, and that ring allows you to change aperture, ISO, white balance, whatever you want to assign to that ring that has a little dial on it. So that's really cool. In the future, I believe it has a February launch date. You're going to be able to slide in ND filters into a $399 adapter. That's going to be nice. On this lens, I've actually got screwed on here an ND filter. This is a variable ND filter. The reason you use this, just in case if you don't know, is the fact if I want to let less or more light into the system, it's basically sunglasses for my lens in really bright situations, I can use this. Of course you can use your ISO or your aperture and you can change the way that you do that, but this makes it easy because then I can use my fastest aperture, you know, around 100 or 200 ISO even in bright daylight. I can change my ND filter and I'm all set, so I get the most crisp, clear image I can get just using this adapter right here. Now this adapter I believe was around $50 or $70. I'll leave a link down below where you can grab yours. The other advantage is it protects your lens. You don't get any dirt or dust on your actual lens because you've always got this on. Now one of the other nice things that is unique to this camera and not any other camera that's ever come out is the fact that when I take this lens off, you can see there that it automatically closes the shutter on this. So by doing that, I don't get any dust or grime or grit or anything inside of the unit, and I think that's great. And I could really see other camera manufacturers doing that in the future, because when you're swapping your lenses out in the field, it's nice to know that you don't have to worry about it. You can see that they've changed this. It's got these nice weather sealed flap doors. So here you've got your HDMI out, your USB-C, which you can charge from that, which is great too if you don't want to take your camera battery out. And over on this side, you've got your microphone and a headphone jack. So if you want to monitor the listening to it, which is fantastic if you're the guy that's behind the camera. You've also got here a remote, so if you want to remote take pictures or video. Well, this camera also has time-lapse mode built into it, which is really nice. The other good thing with this camera is the fact that it uses the old Canon batteries. So this battery is the Canon LP-E6N. So if you've got a bunch of those laying around, you can still use them. They rate this for around, I want to say it was 600 shots. What that realistically means to you is you can get around an hour, hour and a half easily of video footage and around 600 shots of use. One of the other things with this camera to note is that there is no image stabilization inside of the camera. Whereas like the Sony has I believe it's a 5-axis image stabilization. It's not as good as the GH5. Now they have a digital image stabilization. You can turn it on and it creates a little bit more crop because they have to use the sensor size, bring it in a little bit so that you can get that. You can get the lenses with the image stabilization, and that's one of the main reasons that I also went with this lens versus one of the higher lenses, because it has it built in. Now a couple of reasons why that's nice is 4K for video, right? It keeps all those micro jitters out of the system. It makes it a little bit smoother. You don't have to do as much work in post with warp stabilizers and whatever software you're using for it. The other thing is when you're taking long exposure photos, the fact that it doesn't get those shakes. Let's say you're doing a 2-second exposure, maybe it's a darker environment and you're wanting to hold that shutter open for longer to let more light in. If your camera's moving even a little bit, you get motion blur on those pictures, videos, or images. So that's what that will allow you to do. Of course, you can see here on the bottom, the tripod mount is on the center of the camera system, which is nice, and I have seen them in some weird places. The camera feels great in the hand. You can see it's got a nice full grip. I like that. Your pinky isn't hanging off, at least if I hold it correctly. Now, I have seen people say that with this new touch bar that's on the system here, that they're bumping into that and it's changing things. I haven't ran into that yet, but remember, I just started using this camera. But the way that I hold this camera is my thumb doesn't go all the way up there, but I could see, if you had larger hands, I could see easily where, you know, this would be part of your grip and you would be holding that. Now, some people have also complained the fact that it doesn't have a joystick on here like the Sony a7 IIIs and the A9s and some of the other systems. But the advantage with this system is the fact that you can change your focus right here. You can actually tell it to use the display on the top, I believe, or the bottom. So when you're shooting your video, you actually can use your touchscreen as the focus point instead of the little joystick. So once you have it up to your eye, which this is using a digital auto viewfinder instead of an optical, so everything that you see and have set up in your system, you're going to see right inside of your viewfinder, whereas opposed to an optical viewfinder, it's just a mirror, so it's only seeing what you're seeing. And the advantage of that is the fact that if I increase my ISO, change the brightness levels, change the white balance, I can see it right away inside of the viewfinder, and I know exactly what I'm going to get from that versus using an optical viewfinder. So just something really cool. The camera itself shoots 8-bit color instead of 10-bit internally. But the nice thing with this camera is you can actually attach an external recorder like the brand new Ninja 5 from Atomos, and you can shoot 10-bit color, so you can get a lot more color out of this, and you can push your images and video a little bit further by using that external recorder. Some of the things that I've also noticed are the buttons are very smooth, they're easy to use, they're very tactile. I like the location of all of them. If you've used any Canon cameras in the past, this will feel right at home to you. The way that the whole thing is set up, let me show you some of these different dials and buttons, but the way that everything is set up on the camera, I think you're gonna feel right at home using this. The Colorscience, I know we all talk about Colorscience. Is it a real thing? Is it not? It's a real thing. Canon has the best color in the business, I think, right out of the camera without doing any work in post. Sure, on my Sony a7 III, it is very close. They've done an excellent job with that camera, but I still need to move that saturation slider over just a little bit. So there are some different things, but just like with this Canon, 4K is a little soft, and by design, Canon already has it set with the softness down. So you can either increase your sharpness setting inside of the camera body, or you can do it in post. It's completely up to you and what you want to do with it. So every camera has its pros and its cons. It's really just what is best for you. What are you going to be using it for? Is it something you want to set up fast like I do for YouTube videos? Is it something you do professional work? So if you guys are looking for an excellent camera, tons of lens choices, Canon Colorscience, the nice flip screen, the 4K ability, being able to have adapters with ND filters, and just ease of use. This is a fantastic camera to get. I'll leave a link down below where you can get yours, and it always has the best prices. So that's gonna do it for my full hands-on video with the brand new Canon EOS R. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, click that thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them down below. I always check those. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.